It doesn't appear that Kathy can hear us. She may need to sign in again. Which it looks like she went off. So let's wait just a few moments and
Scott, it's nice to see you.
Absolutely. Scott, how many more days?
I'm not counting.
You're not.
We're going to miss you, Scott.
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's going to be a change for me too. Things
So,
are
Scott,
really busy.
Are you retiring?
I am.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Hi, Kathy. Can you hear us, Kathy? No? We're talking, yeah.
Yeah, she's off of mute.
Can you hear us, Kathy? No? Of all the commissioners, I would think Kathy would be the one that would be best at the internet.
Right.
Maybe she's no longer on Online Northwest.
And there's Jody. Kathy dropped off again. So again, we'll just wait just a few more minutes for her to get back up. Okay, she's back on. So it is 4 after the hour. So I welcome everyone to the McMinnville Water and Light Commission meeting, March 15, 2022. Again, we welcome all to who have joined us. And so I call this meeting to order. And Trini, could you do a roll call?
Yes, Mayor Hill,
Here.
Commissioner Tankersley,
Here?
Commissioner Gormley,
Here.
Commissioner Christensen,
Here.
and Commissioner Tate.
Here.
All right.
Good.
Sorry.
Our next item on the agenda this evening is our consent agenda. We have one item of the minutes from previous meeting dated February 23rd, 2022. In that we have one item. Anyone would like to take that item off of the consent agenda and move it to a regular space on the agenda?
I'll move for the adoption of the consent agenda.
Okay, a second.
Second.
Been moved by Ed and seconded by Kathy. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 The consent agenda passes unanimously this evening. A part of your packet is the accounts payable and purchasing reports. That takes us to our our consultant and partner report. And Brent, I see you're on the line. So go ahead and address the topic of your report for the month.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, we're pretty well wrapped up with reforestation for the year. The Boundary Road unit of the Boundary 300 Bald Mountain Road sale is complete. That was a leftover unit from a 2020 sale. The two sales from last year, the 103 Road and the 750, are now complete. Reforestation was underway last week when I wrote the letter, but now the 750 Road is complete. And so all we have left is one day this week of interplanting some previously planted units that we needed to get up to full stocking. So we'll be all done this week with reforestation, and So everything went really well this year. And we are gaining on some of this interplanting. We've had some more favorable summers. Even last year, that heat did not affect us at all. And so we are having some more favorable outcomes with the summer months, which is the key to the success of the plantations. 2022 stumpage sales. Currently, the contracts for these sales are in the process of being executed. Looking to get operations started in April or May. We're having a few pre-work meetings and getting some planning in order to hit the ground running when the weather permits on the two sales. I summarized each sale here. Powerline West, 50 acres. Murphy bought that one. A little under 2 million board feet and estimated total value of about $1.3 million. Powerline East is 34 acres. A lot more volume per acre there. And we got a very high price from Stella Jones Corporation, which is a pole outfit. Estimate a little over 2 million feet there and a little under $2 million in value. So the whole program will be about 4 million board feet and a little over $3 million in value for the 2022 program. Any questions?
I'm here.
Brendan,
No, thank you, Brent.
Tom?
No, thank you, Brent.
Yeah, thank you, Brent, for the report. Good
Yeah,
work.
thank you.
No appearance reports or requests this evening. So let's move on to staff reports. Mark, from the financial aspect, we'll have you go through your topic.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As part of the power sales agreement, we will annually do a review of Cascade Steel's parent company, Snisser Steel. So our agreements with Cascade Steel, and there's some requirements in our power sales agreement to establish creditworthiness, and those are shown there in my staff report. The parent company, Snisser Steel, more than met all of those. They had a very good year this year, despite some of the issues with the pandemic and then supply chain issues. There was a lot of demand for their products, and they had a very good year. So nothing to report other than just that they meet all those metrics, and I just wanted to communicate that to the commission, that we had looked at that again this year.
Does the commission need to take an action confirming that we've reviewed this, Sam?
No, I don't think you do. I mean, just
Okay.
the report just says that they're in compliance.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Mark, for that report. Let's move down to, I show no old business. Under new business, we're going to change the order of discussion a little bit. Ed has an obligation and needs to leave by 6. So we'd like to move the intergovernmental agreement with the city of McMinnville to our A slot, and then we'll go to water rights and the grant agreement with ARPA funds from Yamhill County. And so John, we'll go ahead and turn it over to you to run us through our discussion as it relates to the intergovernmental agreement. John Spence.
I'll start off, Mayor, and
Okay,
maybe
go ahead.
So as the commission's aware, the city council has been looking at ways to add additional funds to the general fund. At their, I believe it's their November 9th meeting. The mayor can correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's correct. They moved to do a general utility service fee. And they have hired a consultant, Deb Gallardi, to look at what that fee would look like as far as dollars. And they have been talking with Water and Light staff about how that would work in the billing. We would like Water and Light to do the billing for that fee. And the mayor and I have been meeting with both Jeff and water and light staff to move that forward. But I think there were some items that we wanted to get some input from the commission on, and those were in the packet. And maybe I'll just open it up for questions and discussion right there and start the discussion.
I'm happy to start.
Go ahead, Tom.
So it's my understanding from talking to the mayor and to John that this, and this agreement says the city wants to pay its fair share. And so I looked at that and thought about it, and realizing that in the past, when we've built the sewer, it really was related to what we do. In my mind, we can't sell people water if they don't have a place to put it down the sewer, unless they all have septic tanks, and you can't do that in the city. So it really was related to our activities. And so, but there's one new fee now, the services fee, the city services fee that they're talking about. And then there will be another one soon, which is the stormwater fee, which have nothing to do with water and light. And I'm also aware of having been told, I don't know, Ed, how many times did Dave Hagerberg tell us we can't use water or light money for general city operations? You think 1,000 times, or is that too low?
Every time I asked him for some money.
Yes. So there are these rules that are in state law that we can't use revenues from the city utility to subsidize the city, except for there is the in lieu of taxes on that we pay the 6%. We collect and pay the 6%. And you might remember that, City of Portland's gotten sued several times and lost because they've used Water Bureau money for stuff. So putting together that concern and the thought that the city does seem to want to pay its fair share, it seemed to me that, of course, they should pay the extra costs. So if we have an NISC cost for another module for their billing, or our time cost, our staff costs to do that, they should certainly pay that. But then the fair share, in my mind, I think we should think about whether that fair share would include they pay a proportion of the NISC cost to just do the general billing. Now, I don't mean our costs for our finance stuff that has to do with our finance system, I don't mean the costs that have to do with I think we have a job costing module, not those things, but just, what does NISC charge us to take the data, prepare the bills, and then mail them out, including the postage. And I had John look at that, and it looks like it's $9,000 or $10,000 a month just for those items. And when staff looks at it, there may be more, but it seems to me that we ought to think about telling the city that we think their fair share would include a fair proportion of that. And John and I talked a little bit about how you'd figure that. You could figure it by number of accounts that were billed. You could figure it by, and of course the city has sewer too. So, or you could just say, we have two things that are billed, water and power. They have two now, or will have two, sewer and the city service fee, but they're going to have a third one, which is their additional stormwater fee that they have to do because of a DEQ rule, I think. So I think we ought to think about having John and the mayor talk to the city staff about, what a fair share really means, and make sure they understand the numbers. And then we should be thinking about, and staff should tell us, what these costs are. I don't think we need to decide that tonight, but I think we should talk about it. And another way to do it, of course, is just say, well, we'll split those general billing charges, the not the specific module charges, but the billing itself charges. We'll split that with them, and along with the postage 50-50. But I mean, I don't know. I just wanted to bring up and have us talk about, because in the agreement that we looked at, the intergovernmental agreement, there was nothing for that. It was just the extra out-of-pocket costs for additional NISC services. So,
Mr. Mayor, to add to Tom's comments, I am extremely concerned about if everything moves forward, we become the collection point, and our staff will be taking the calls from the public. And if it's anything like the sewer calls were initially, there's a lot of upset people, and our staff ends up taking the brunt of I'm going to call it the consumer abuse related to this increased fee. I will tell you that I've had lots of people contact me upset, wanting to know what to do. And I think this is just a thought. We either designate one person to deal with the phone calls. We do a time study, and we bill the city for any interaction that our staff has to have dealing with their collection issue related to the service fee. The second thing is there is employee time it takes to process all that. And even though we have the hard cost of the fee, I think the soft cost of, again, the time the employees spend related to processing all this, we need to be compensated for that. So there's two more things that we need to reflect upon and come to an agreement. We can establish the number, and Jeff and John can reach agreement on those numbers. Does that make sense to everybody what I'm talking about?
yes, Ed, on the first point about whose staff would answer these inquiries, I think John and Scott have already been talking to Jeff about it, and I think I'll let them describe in detail, but it strikes me that it's better if we just refer the caller to a person of the city, because our staff doesn't really have the authority or the information to resolve problems. If someone, for instance, says, well, I should be on low income, our staff doesn't know how to do that. And so I think it would be better that we just have a person at the city we refer those callers to, and apologize for not being able to deal with it, but say, because the city shouldn't want to give our staff authority to solve their problems, just like sewer now is dealt with by the city, I think. We just
so if that's the position we take, which is fine, then I think the time we spend referring those calls, that's an activity we are doing that we would not normally do, and it's an activity resultant of the fact the city is a new fee they're incorporating, or new fees they are incorporating. So it's a cost that the city needs to pay us, reimburse us for.
Well, and we talked a little bit again, just to update everyone. John, myself, and Jeff are meeting together with staff to provide direction, and I'm kind of sitting in between, because this can get a little there can be some ownership on both sides, and I represent both, and I feel like I'm in a pretty good place, and we tend to be on really good behavior when we're all together. So we've made that commitment that we're going to, moving forward, have John, Jeff, myself, and then primarily John Spence is there with customer service, and we've got Mark, and we've got Jennifer there, and we're talking about those types of things. I think we've come from a very high level, and now we're getting down to more specifics. And from my perspective, I think there's some tweakings that need to be done, but I've heard very specifically from Jeff that we want to pay our fair share. But again, from one that isn't involved in the billing cycle or the billing aspect right now, when we had sewer problems, we just reached out to Mike Bissett and it all got taken care of. Well, we don't have Mike here, and we've got a new individual, and I feel very comfortable in making the point, and Tom and John and I have talked about having a point of contact at the city. And again, my feeling is we do want to make Water and Light whole. We've taken, I won't say we've I won't say that we've taken advantage, because I think Tom has been very specific to say that sewer goes hand in hand with water, and Water and Light has taken the major role in that billing process and some of the concerns that go until they want to talk to someone. And then that was Mike Bissett. So I hope that makes sense. I think we're getting closer to where we need to be, but I anticipate that, we will have numerous meetings in the next couple of months as we zero in on that, and taking into account what Tom has said, and Ed, what you've said. Jody, I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, I don't remember why, but now I have a new question. So, Mayor, I know that when I attended the city council meeting, there was some preliminary discussion about a communications plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that while you're working on the nuts and bolts of the billing, the communication plan is essential to make sure that the community understands what this fee is and why it's on this bill, but what its relation to both Water and Light in the city. And I just want to make sure that we don't lose sight of that, because a good communications plan doesn't happen an hour before, right? It's got to lead up to it. And I also think that there needs to be some, I don't know if the city's made decisions around, sort of capping or sunsetting or any of those things. But I think even if those decisions aren't made, that should probably be discussed, because I think that's going to come up as people see this fee on their bill, or the announcement of the fee. And I also want to make sure that we're thoughtful about our community, and that there's at the very least, that there's Spanish translation for all of the communication that's going forward about this.
Thank you, Jody. We have turned the communication piece over to Noelle, who is our PR person for the city now. And so she has been given instructions to start working on that plan. Spanish translation is very important, as you indicated. The other piece that I think is critical that we talk about is in the communication plan of why are we doing this, and why are we using Water and Light to do this? Because for most citizens, they think Water and Light in the city is the same hand, and it's truly not. We know that, and so we've got a big communication piece to be going with. And so I think talking about why are we doing it, is there going to be a cap, is there a sunset, needs to be a part and be proactively talked about in the communication plan, translation, and all of those things are pertinent. And we talked about that. It was probably 2 weeks ago, John, when we had that opportunity. We're meeting again Monday to get closer to where we need to be. There's many aspects of this. We're looking at the software, but we're also looking at the communications, we're looking at the cost. And again, it's our intent that we put no additional burdens on Water and Light, but we may have to continue to talk to get that full understanding across. I'm uniquely positioned, as Ed has when he was mayor, and as Rick was when he was mayor, to sit on both the city council and the commission here, and it gives us a great vision. And sometimes our city managers don't have that vision because they turn it over to others to do. Ed, I saw your hand go up.
Scott, I mentioned this at the last meeting, but that maybe it's time for the city to go ahead and handle all of their own billings as they start dealing with things that traditionally Water and Light helped it with. Has been any discussion about you looking at purchasing your own software to handle billings?
I have brought that up because you'd mentioned it last time, and the cost and the timing of this is probably it's not a direction we want to go, and that's why we're so willing to make sure Water and Light is whole. But in the long term, it's something I think we are looking at putting on the docket. so that we keep that separation. So like Tom has said, though, that water and sewer tends to go hand in hand, but we're bringing other things up, wastewater, these city services fee. I wouldn't put it past that we'd be looking at, but it's not the short-term solution because of the cost, the programming, from that perspective. But
So one other comment I want to share with you is that the Jeb Ledeen wrote an article in his op-ed piece. And I don't know if you had a chance to follow up and see it. There were 5 different responses. One of them negative by a person saying water and light's kind of out of control, running up rates and that. Somebody responded back saying, well, water and light has nothing to do with that. But that perspective is, honest to God, a perspective you'll find throughout the community. So there's some I guess some negative comments are going to come about our organization just because of this, and the fact that people still think the city owns a garbage company and all that, those associated things in that. But I really want to stress that if we're going to true up everything and the city's offered to do their fair share, we need to reflect on personnel costs related to doing all that, and that would, I think, meet the intent of what Tom's original comments were about.
Thank you, Ed.
I see John's got his
John.
I wanted to hear from Kathy and
Okay.
too, so maybe we could, I'll just be quiet.
Okay,
No,
Kathy, if you've got some thoughts.
Yeah.
John, go ahead if you have something.
Well, I was just going to go on to another item on that. So if you have something before that, go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted a couple of things. I want to reflect back on Jody's comments about communication, and then I guess, Commissioner Gormley's comments about the perception for water and light. And so I feel like I'm thinking that part of that communication plan is going to be hopefully something that's like an insert with the bill when it goes out, with some good explanation about why this is happening and who the responsible parties are, so that like when you get a new bill and it has a new format or new charges on it, that there's an explanation. And it seems like some of that communication should be in support of water and light, to explain who's responsible for what, including whatever, something on the website and some other information in support of water and light, try to keep these two things separate. And I think the other question I just had was about this storm fee, the storm drain fee. Is that right? I must have missed that before. I didn't know another fee was coming also. And I'm just wondering, what is the timing of that? It feels like if you're going to do extra, it wouldn't seem right to do this and then sometime later add on another thing. Like, it seems like it'd be better just to do it all in one swoop, so people aren't caught off guard 2 times. What is there a timing when the storm fee is going to come into place?
I believe it's 24, isn't it, Mayor?
Yes. And it has to do with regulation of putting the water, the mercury levels. They've put stipulations on us that are going to be much more costly to put the storm water back into the environment. And so it truly is a cost that we're going to have to deal with. We're going to have to ramp up, and we're going to do that somewhat on our own, but there are costs associated with that.
So
go ahead.
I was going to say, is it possible that if you're looking at a jump off date for doing the city's own billing, that it would be, before that next implemented? It seems like that would be a good target, so that this don't have to go through this again.
I was just going to add on what Kathy said. I wonder, Mayor, if there's an opportunity for the city's communication person to engage with Water and Light's communication person to make sure that's consistent with how we talk about this organization and the work that we do here, and just kind of make sure that there's a two-way communication between those two professionals.
Thank you,
Jeff and I have had that conversation.
Yeah.
But I was going to also add a couple other things. One is the IGA, is the commission comfortable with using an IGA as the mechanism to capture all of this? And then the other item would be how the city essentially ties this fee to the consumer. So for example, right now, with the water meter, if you're in a apartment complex, you do not have an actual tie to the water meter. That's actually done through what we call dwelling counts. So the landlord actually pays that bill and it's part of your rent. So if the city was going to do something with low income, they would not be able to capture that. So one way to capture that would be to work through YCAP or St. Vincent, or potentially use the electric meter is another option for that as well.
This is Ed. In response to John, your comments, I think as long as Sam's okay with this document, I mean, I'm okay. I'm okay with it as the document goes, but very concerned about everything that's been discussed, starting with Tom's first comments.
With the IGA, is there a way to build in a checkpoint so that there's an opportunity for Water and Light in the City to review, I don't know, 6 months of activity to see what may need to change, or is that an addendum?
This is Sam. I mean, we could build that in. I mean, just to address the IGA, we've done IGAs with the city previously. Recently we've done 3, one in 2017 and 2 in 2018. All those related to some kind of construction activity. Of course, the city or Water and Light and the city have entered into previous agreements that were not explicitly IGAs in the past, including the fiber optic agreement that really probably in reality is an IGA, just it isn't explicitly one, but I think that's what it is. We've also had agreements. We have an agreement related to the lease of the Joe Dancer property for the park, and we've had agreements with the city for various property transactions and purchases. So, I mean, I think an intergovernmental agreement is the way to do it. It's just, I think John's question was, if you generally like that method and are supportive of us kind of moving forward with kind of this form of document, understanding it's going to need more work, and I guess also whether you're going to want to see it back to you again next month, and what point are you going to be wanting us to sort of actively enter into discussions with the city over the document, I guess is the question. And then John had the follow-up question about the electric accounts. I think we've got questions for you about just currently under our customer policy, our customer accounts are confidential. We don't share them with anybody except the customer themselves. And the commission is the custodian of the books, accounts and papers, the accounts of the Water and Light department. So you are the custodian of the record. You have a customer policy that makes those records confidential. And so I know the city staff has been asking for access to the electric accounts, and we've essentially told them no, and told them that I think unless our policy were to change on that, and that would be up to you all. And so that's a secondary question, but I think that will drive how the account billing goes, and is really a necessary kind of prerequisite sort of to answer that question, so we know which direction we're going, whether the accounts are going to tie to anything other than the sewer accounts, and as John was describing, this sort of collective billing mechanism that we use for water and for sewer system. That's how water and sewer is built in those multifamily dwellings.
Tom?
So real quickly, is the city's need for access to the electric accounts only related to their attempts to diffuse the regressive nature and have a low income rate? Is that what it is? So would it be that they could, if somebody applies for that, the person, as part of their application, would request that Water and Light release that information to the city? Sam, would that work?
Well, theoretically it could work. I guess one of the challenges is setting up something that's systematic, that is not a series of one-offs. And so that's, I think my perception is the city wants to establish rates that they need to tie to some class. And so they're trying to set up classes of people. And I think in our previous discussions with them, it sounds like they initially were tying those classes to water meter size. And that's something other cities do. It's very common for these types of fees. I mean, Newburgh does that. I think the city of Albany does that, or tied to either meter size or dwelling counts. And so I think it's pretty common, in my understanding of it, statewide, to use water meter and water meter size. I think very few. I mean, there's only 11 municipal utilities in the state. So using electric meters is not. I would imagine it's probably not common in these situations, because we're a little bit unique that way to even have access to that. But to answer your question, I guess anything's possible. It's just that as we try to build something like that into the system, it'll become more complicated.
And Sam, as you mentioned, you've told us before, I think the whole commission, that the city's ability under the charter, we have the sole ability to set rates for water and electric, and that the state law gives the city the right to collect the payment in lieu of taxes from the electric, if, and as I understand it, we as the people in charge of the electric utility determine that there are sufficient funds to do that. But what I don't want to do is give the city the impression that the commission is going to allow them to use this information to set a rate. So it's based on, because I think you and I have talked about that may be impinging on our rights under the charter and our responsibilities under the charter. So I'm happy. So to go back to your questions, the first part is I'm happy to use the intergovernmental agreement. I would like to see it back, especially since it doesn't have, Jody's concerned about the review. It doesn't have the communications, I think, as much as the kind of detail we'd like to have, and it doesn't capture many of the costs we've talked about tonight. On the second issue, I guess I'd like to know, before we changed first of all, there may be some federal obligations we have, because we have those two federal programs through YCAP for low income people, right? Some confidentiality. We may have our hands tied on that anyway.
Yeah, I don't know for sure about that, but I can just say there's going to be, I anticipate there's going to be unintended consequences of anything we do that's new.
Yeah, so I guess I would, and I am somewhat sympathetic to the city, because they don't really know how our system works, and they don't really know how to do what they want to do. But I think I'm certainly not comfortable with a blanket change of our policy to say the city can get into all of our customer accounts. I'm not comfortable with that. If they want to come back with a specific request of, exactly what they want to do and why, I think we should listen to them.
And just to address that, it's not the intent of the city to use water or electric meters. The intent is to be able to come up with a process for hardship that doesn't put additional hardship on those that are already in hardship. And that's where we were thinking of how can we utilize St. Vincent's de Paul that has all that information and YCAP that has that information. So we're just talking about options at this point. If I'm not mistaken, John, we really still are focused on water meter sizes, but we don't want to have people that are in hardship, probably the least citizen have to jump through other hoops to get hardship relief from the city's services fee.
Correct.
On the other hand, Scott, I think everybody, including people who are low income, have a right to their privacy.
Absolutely.
So we want to be careful of that too. We need to treat those folks like the rest of our customers.
And see, that's why we want to mirror a bit what's happening at St. Vincent's de Paul and YCAP, because we already have in place a process to help people that are in need of utility relief. Ed?
Scott, I think YCAP probably has the better documented issues related to people's status.
Yeah.
Because of how they operate. And John, help me here, or Mark, but I think St. Vincent has become the depository of funds to come help people that have needs. But in order for those people to get that, they have to actually contact St. Vincent's, I'm thinking.
Yes.
To have that, and it's kind of it comes kind of a, you know, we only have so much money this month, and so after 25 requests, it's gone. But not. That's how I kind of remember St. Vincent. So
yeah,
YCAP is
right.
YCAP. You know, they're all about a program administered with those people. So
right.
Has the city staff talked to YCAP about the information they could give them?
John, I don't know. Did that come up in our discussion? I don't think they have.
I don't think they have either. It has not come up in our discussions that they've talked to them.
Can I ask, I don't feel like this conversation is only about low income, though, getting access to those addresses, because in discussion 2 here on this page, it talks about that the city wants to charge the service fee to individual households or directly to tenants, even when, you know, the sewer and the water services are commonly billed to the landlord. Is that correct, Mayor Hill? I think they don't want to put this as a bulk charge to the landlord. They want to charge each individual tenant in a multi-tenant dwelling, and therefore they would need those electrical addresses to get to each of those tenants. Isn't that correct?
I think our discussions 2 weeks ago were that, you know, right now if we only go with water, we do know that we've got, help me, John, the dwelling count, the dwelling count. So we know how many dwellings are in an apartment.
Right.
But Kathy's right, because we have individual meters for every tenant, where we don't have that for water and sewer.
Right.
So when they're asking for addresses, it's not just to address the population for low income, it's to address everybody who's in a multi-dwelling unit where, you know, where the water and the sewer are bulk paid by the landlord. So it's a lot more addresses than that, and it's a lot more people. So then, you know, to Sam's point, I mean, the process of getting that information without releasing the, you know, the database is fairly complex, I would think, and fairly complicated to get that information passed across. And that's the most transient group of people that you serve. So people are constantly moving and changing addresses. And I guess that would be a question I have too. Just, I mean, I guess maybe it's not have anything to do with water and light, but when you're talking about MDUs and the transient nature of a lot of those places, it's like the idea that they're going to pay a city fee when they maybe only live somewhere for a few months and then move again is kind of an interesting thing to think about as well. But, you know, that's another conversation probably with the city.
And we've talked a little bit about, you know, fees not collected, who's going to collect, how we're going to do that. All of those types of things are coming into play, but we've not come up with a surefire solution for that yet, Kathy. And again, we've been at a pretty high level of just the billing aspect. We know that the council has given indication that we are moving forward with the city fee. And so that's where we're really delving into this in more specific ways, and the use of Mark and Jennifer, because they know the financial systems, and John Spence. Those are the kinds of discussions that we're going to start delving into, but there's still quite a few unanswered questions to your point. Ed?
Maybe John can help here. Have you discussed how you're going to build Linfield if and when these charges get?
No, that's because I think that's, yeah, that was some type of special case we did, if I remember right. There's dwellings, there's the dorms and all of those issues.
You've got master meters serving all
Right.
kinds of buildings and
yeah,
apartments and stuff. So
this is not a simple thing. It's not, you know, I think what the city doesn't realize, it took us over 2 years to implement this billing system, you know, for water and electric. This is a complicated issue, and it's not going to be a simple solution, because the other issue is, you know, the city's talking about residential, and everybody in the residential, if they're not low income, pays the same fee. But in commercial, it's structured differently, and then that doesn't work with electric meters, because the meter doesn't tell you if it's a bigger meter or not based on the meter necessarily. You know, there's not a size constraint like a water meter is going to be a 4-inch or 6-inch. So, Mark?
Yeah, I was just going to say the most recent request that we've had for information on customer accounts on which to base the city fee on is electric meters for all the residential customers, and then water meter size and dwell counts for the general service customers. So that with that question that came up, then that led us down this issue of, are we able to actually release the electric meter information? We can keep that confidential, I guess, or we could release it in a way that it wouldn't have specific customer information in it. But then ultimately what happens is they populate all of that with the fees that they want to charge. And when we go back and we put that into the billing software and create that, we have effectively created all of that customer information from electric accounts that now, because it's the city's service fee utility, belongs to the city. So we effectively have released the electric utility customer information. So.
Oh, my head is spinning right now. I think we've gotten into an area that I'm starting to feel really uncomfortable about transmitting any information to a government entity that's under public records. I can only imagine what MEDP is thinking about this, and the ability to recruit, and sort of talking about some of the sensitive nature that businesses talk about when they're coming into a community and or expanding. So I remember there were very specific questions that were asked during the council meeting. What is the usage for business X or business Y? Those things, I think we need to think very carefully about how that information goes out. And I don't think you can aggregate that information to a place where people couldn't identify the user. You're going to know who the big users are in our community. So you're going to go, oh, A, B, and C. I know who that is. It's right. So this gives me pause. And I don't know how you get around that, but I think that there needs to be some discussion about how to protect customers and how to protect.
So Jody, what's interesting, and you say it gives you pause, you mentioned MEDP. I will tell you that I don't believe, Scott, you correct me here, you have no endorsements from anyone yet of the concept, do you? Letters from the Chamber of Commerce, letters from any customers? Probably at this point, maybe some negative.
No, we have not addressed that with our partners out in
So there's
for business development. Yes.
Yeah, this could be all for naught. That there's again, I have been getting emails from people wanting to know what they could do to stop this. It's from the business community.
Right.
In fact, people in the chamber have been directing
Yeah.
people to contact me because of being a commissioner.
Yeah.
There's not much I can do. So
Well, and I think the city is there, right? That the decision's been made, it's been voted on, the council's moving forward. No?
It's not been. We've done a poll.
Oh,
straw
okay.
poll.
Okay.
Yeah, we've done a straw poll, and Jeff feels that he has the support to move forward, but we've not been specific on the rate that would go out yet. We have a range, and I was telling Tom and John when we had our pre-meeting today, it's kind of like from 0 to 6%, and we have an empirical bell curve that probably is falling in, 3 to 5. We haven't had those discussions yet, but we do know that we're moving forward. There's enough support at the council, and it's not a 3 to 3 where I'm involved in it at all at this point.
Scott, is that a percentage you're talking about or millions of dollars?
That would be millions of dollars, not percentage.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
I wanted to just bring up back to Jody's comment about, if we do something to revisit it earlier, the term on here is annual, and it requires a 365-day notice to either party to terminate the agreement, which seems kind of extreme when you're walking into something you don't have any idea how it's going to go. So certainly I think the whole term part of it needs to be revisited and rethought about. It's certainly in the best interest of the city, because if we were going to bill for them anymore, they need a lot of time to figure something out, but maybe not in the best interest of Water and Light to do that. But it seems like the more we talk about this, the further away we get from, having it make sense. And I certainly don't understand, what all the options are, but lots more discussion to be had, it sounds like.
Well, I can share with you that I think John, Jeff, and myself think that this is going to be a weekly process as we're moving forward now, and having our support staffs around that so we can get very specific and know the right questions to ask and the right solutions.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all your work. I know it's looks like a very heavy lift.
Well, it's new to the city. It's a different dynamic that we live in. Costs seem to be going up, but it's going up for our citizens also. So we've got to do it right all the way around. We've got to do it right. Any other comments? Again, know that we're going to be, you've got John, myself, and anyone else. We'll be back talking to you. We will give you monthly updates, and if it becomes necessary, we will get communication out to you as on a more frequent basis as things are moving forward, if we're meeting on a weekly basis.
And
I just want to commend you for you're in a really tough position. So
yeah,
just I have lots of empathy for what you're going through.
Yes, and also I would suggest that this is a very complicated many-part issue, and that I would suggest that any commissioners have questions or ideas or concerns, they talk to John about it, so we don't violate the public meetings laws. But
Right.
and he's on top of what's going on, and I echo Kathy and Ed. That, thank you, Scott. This is why you make the big bucks as mayor.
That's right. Well, I thank you, this group, just to help for me being able to know, I guess I don't know what I don't know when it comes to water and light, but I'm a student of what Ed and Tom have been doing for years and years and years. And I'm trying to take that back and bridge the gap, because the knowledge necessary at the city level to understand the complications of what we're trying to do, it's just not there. It
Right,
really
you don't
is.
have any history that helps you.
No. And from a financial standpoint and administration standpoint, this is fairly new to everyone. We were just talking that Jeff came from Springfield, where they have the same type of municipal service, but he wasn't the city manager there. He was secondary there, and I don't know that it was so much in his preview as the assistant city manager in Springfield.
And to add to what Scott said, I'm very happy to have Jody's input from the economic development side of it. I really, she understands this in depth that none of us have any chance of understanding. And Kathy, we have a person who's run a business that runs monthly billing. So, I mean, I think that's and who understands keeping the customers happy. So I think it's, I would encourage all four of us to continue to contribute to the discussion.
Absolutely. And know that we have an execution date of July 1st. I don't know that we're going to make that. And I've brought that up a number of times that we've got to do it right. And John is a true steward of the commission and water and light, saying that, we have to have a test run. We've got to make sure that all elements are communicating and operating the way they need to. We cannot stub our toes, so to speak. And we've got some examples out where ODOT went through a system that didn't work, and Portland Water went through a system that they started and had to replace. We can't have that. That's not the heritage and legacy of MW&L.
Okay, so
Go ahead, Sam.
I was just going to ask for staff's benefit. And I think this is a question that Mr. Spence and Mr. Dunbar have about the electric accounts. So am I understanding right that at least for the time being, we're not going to share the electric account information?
Correct. That would be my admonition. Yes.
I heard the commission tonight saying that you should follow our policy.
Right. Well, that's what I would say is, like, without a change in policy, that's where we're at.
Okay, then I think but if they want to come back to us with specifics and the reasons for them, and then we're certainly willing to talk about it. But we need to keep in mind what Jody was talking about too, about economic development issues and our existing business issues, because it doesn't do us much good to have a good utility if we can't have any businesses in town.
Sure. Well, thank you for your input and your thoughtful discussion. I think we have in place a desire to do this the right way, a desire to work hand in hand. And I know that it has gotten a little passionate, but we've worked through that. And I think we have in place a way to communicate. But I've taken 2 pages of notes tonight that I'll take back. And I will also have individuals from the city get onto YouTube or however we have this to listen to this discussion, because it was really well presented from the commission tonight. Any further discussion or question?
Yeah, just thank you. I need to leave, but thank you for adjusting the our layout tonight to allow me to be part of that. One last question to Sam. We are in the middle of March, and I believe that April is a time that Kathy and I are supposed to work with John. Am I thinking that correctly?
Yeah, and so I'll probably be working. You're talking about getting together for a quarterly review. Is that what you're talking
Yes.
about? Yeah. I think we were going to have, maybe Trina was going to arrange that.
Okay. So I fly back from Arizona around the 10th or so, and don't go back again until later on in May. So I should be around. So just to let you know, so we can keep John on the dime.
Okay. Right.
I have it on the calendar for April 6th, that you're not back in town
No,
till the 10th.
I don't get back. I think I fly back on the 10th. So we'll get back. Once you send me a note, I'll give you my calendar. So
Okay, sounds good.
thank you, everybody. Good evening to all. Take care.
Thanks, Ed.
Hey, Tom, has your voice changed? There was almost a dog sounding.
I know. It's rough over here. It's rough.
And I saw a ghost. I couldn't believe it. A ghost ran by you twice. You know?
Okay, let's move to the new item B, which is water right purchase. And James and Sam, one of you take the lead on that.
I'll go ahead and speak to this. So as the memo, I'm trying to get to it real quick. I think as the memo summarizes, we've been in escrow with International Paper really for about 2 years on this water rights purchase, and it's kind of slogged forward very slowly. We've gone through, we had a delay based on kind of another transaction that IP was doing, I think, with another municipality. We've done some amendments along the way relating to in-stream lease rights. And as you can see from the memo and from the documents in the materials, the Oregon Water Resources Department finally issued an order in October, a final order approving the transfer. And then after review by our water rights experts at GSI, they in their review, they determined there were some errors in the final order. So a request was made back to Oregon Water Resources to correct those errors. And that was kind of in the middle of the whole COVID blow up recently, and that delayed everything. I think their office was closed, or Oregon Water Resources was closed for a while. In any event, they issued their final correction in January, which then puts us into the 60-day appeal period. And under our agreement, once that appeal period runs, we'll be ready to close. Working with GSI, I have put together a quitclaim deed referencing the transfer of water right, and also working with Ms. Grigsby at GSI, I put together a assignment of transfer document, which is an Oregon Water Resources Department form that basically just gives the Water Resources notice that the transfer is complete, and that essentially IP will be transferring their application position as applicant to us. We then become not only the recipient, but also the applicant. And as you can see, I think in the final order, it transfers the right under a transfer order, and we have 30 years, or actually maybe 31 years. I think the transfer has to be completed before, I think I want to say October of 2052. In any event, what you have in the packet is you have a resolution that will authorize funds to be distributed for closing escrow documents to be signed. The deed will have to be signed by the mayor and the clerk. Escrow settlement statements will have to be signed. We'll have to transfer funds into the escrow at First American. Ms. Greger at First American has been very patient. We had this escrow open for about 2 years. But I've been in communication with her every few months just to keep her aware of what's going on. So our hope is to get this closed in the week of March 28th or shortly thereafter. The documents are back with IP. IP is always very slow about moving documents. They've been slow in their amendments. So it's not strange that they're being slow with the quitclaim deed and the assignment. Although I did communicate with her attorney last week. She said the documents under review. I thought I would hear back from her today, but I haven't. But I don't anticipate any problems. And with that, I guess, do you have any questions?
So, Sam, thank you very much. This is really complicated, and I appreciate the way you stayed on top of it and worked with our consultant. So thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure. And if there's no questions, I've got the resolution. It's resolution number 2022-3, a resolution approving the closing of the purchase of water rights by the City of McMinnville-Acton through its Water and Light Commission from International Paper Company, a New York corporation.
Thank you for reading that. Do I have a motion? Well, number one, any further comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion for resolution 2022-30?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
It's been moved by Kathy and seconded by Tom. Do we poll on this, Trina? Then go ahead and do a polling.
Mayor Hill,
Yes?
Commissioner Tankersley,
Yes.
Commissioner Christensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Tate.
Yes.
Resolution number 2022-30 passes unanimously. Commissioner Gormley is not in the meeting at this time. So thank you for all that hard work. It continues the saga continues to move forward. Okay,
Yes.
let's go to item C, which is the grant agreement with Yamhill County on ARPA funds. And so, James, if you'd update us and lead us in a discussion.
Good evening. So in November, staff submitted 4 grant applications to Yamhill County's ARPA grant program for the water and sewer infrastructure. The 4 projects submitted included a purchase for an emergency water purification trailer, design for the raw water transmission main, design for phase 3 finished water transmission main, and then construction for phase 3 of the finished water transmission main. The first 3 were selected to receive funding in a total amount of $550,000. McMinnville Water and Light's match is $260,000. Staff is recommending commission approve the resolution to fund the 3 projects. And open up the questions.
Any questions for James?
Good job. Thank you.
Yeah. I did have a question just for history's sake. Have we received grants through the county before, McMinnville Water and Light? I'm sure you must have. Like you've been through multiple grant processes with the county?
No, I actually was reading the history document, and I believe the last grant we got was back in the 1960s.
And this is primarily because they're ARPA dollars that are, and water is a part of the title of these ARPA dollars. So we find ourselves in a fairly unique position, and unlike the city, the county had 20+ million, and they determined to give some of those dollars out in grants specifically for water. And I think broadband is one thing they addressed, and then they're even doing it for nonprofits. Yeah. So it's a really unique opportunity that's in front of us.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I saw throughout the document, there was some additional either additions or changes to the text that were in blue. I'm guessing that was from Sam. And there's been some back and forth with the county on the language for this.
Yes, Yeah, I told Mr. Gal that I would give him a kind word, give him kind words, because he weighed in on behalf of his cities, and I joined in with
Okay.
him. We sort of tag teamed county
Yeah.
council on quite a few changes.
Yeah.
Good job.
I think I just wanted to, I did read through it. I, was a recipient of a county grant also a while back. And I think just one of the things I didn't see specified in here very clearly, and maybe I just missed it, was sort of some of the requirements around reporting back to the county. While it does say that part of the contingency is there is reporting requirements, they're not like specified. I didn't see them clearly specified. And what I would say is that if you haven't had a grant with the county before, then there isn't a level of expectation on what they got what happened previously or what the expectation is. I think the biggest thing I have, come to think about is that, operating in this different environment is that people rotate in and out. And so the expectations that people have when these kinds of agreements are made can change a lot if somebody new comes in and doesn't have the same set of, if the expectations weren't written down somewhere, then the next person who comes in, there can be some confusion. So I guess that would be my comments here. I had a couple other thoughts just around equipment availability and deadline extension if run into issues. I think there's some deadlines for things to get done, and some things are going to be outside of your control. So I wasn't sure that I saw language that said you could go back for various, things that might come up and ask for some extensions, but that might be necessary. So those are a few comments I had.
And if I'm not mistaken, Kathy, the ARPA funds have some very specific deadlines attached to it that probably prevent us from getting extensions. And so, the focus to get the projects completed within the time frame is critical. I'll ask Mark the other question that I have. At the city, we use federal funds, especially out at the airport, quite a bit, and we have to do single audits if the federal funds are at a certain level. With ARPA dollars, if you get at a certain level, are there single audits that are required?
Yeah, the threshold is 750,000.
Okay.
So we're under that for these grants, but we also have the FEMA dollars that we still have not yet received. And I've been in contact with our auditors, and there is a possibility that depending on the timing of all of this, that we would be under, be subject to a federal single audit. So.
And so to Kathy's point, again, just knowing that is a possibility, we need to follow the stringent requirements that are set out from the accounting standpoints for that.
And I think if I remember correctly, we have until 2024, James, or is it 2026 to spend the dollars?
24, I believe it's 18 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's my recollection too.
Yeah, in regards to the grants, you can't ask for an extension. Our goal is not to ask for an extension, obviously. We have the two projects. One was approved last commission meeting for that phase 3 piece. So we already have a consultant on board for that. The raw water line design will be coming to commission next month. And then we'll be going out to bid for the water purifications. Hopefully it'll be there in April for that piece as well. So our goal is to get all this wrapped up, and we're familiar. I believe it's quarterly reporting to the county on that. So we'll make sure we meet those requirements.
Great. Any other questions of James? Sam, could you read the resolution, including the resolution number by title only?
Yes. Resolution number 2022-4, resolution authorizing and approving 3 investing in water and sewer infrastructure grant agreements between the Yamhill County Political Subdivision of the State of Oregon and the City of McMinnville Municipal Corporation, State of Oregon, acting by and through its Water and Light Commission.
Thank you, Sam. Again, the resolution number after 2022 is what?
Is 2022-4.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments? Hearing none, I will ask for a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
And a second.
I'll second.
Okay, so Jody had the motion and Tom a second. Trina, can you poll the commission?
Yes, Mayor Hill,
Yes.
Commissioner Tankersley,
Yes.
Commissioner Christensen,
Yes. Commissioner
Tate.
Yes.
Resolution 2022-4 passes unanimously 4-0 with Commissioner Gormley not attending this portion of the meeting. Thank you for all your hard work on that, and it just gets us a foot up utilizing ARPA dollars. So thank you. That takes us now to our executive session this evening. And so, Trina, if you can take us down to.
Yeah, this will be executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602F to consider information and records that are exempt from public disclosure under ORS 192.355 sub 2-3 relating to identifying security measures, individual, building, and information processing.
Thank you, Trina. Just to remind everyone, the items discussed in executive session remain in executive session, and we don't have any media with us this evening. There will be no decisions made in executive session, our executive session. So we'll turn it over to Thad at this point. Go ahead, Thad.